Today I'm looking at my 5 favourite sewing gadgets. Let's see what I chose. The first gadget I've chosen might not seem very important to a lot of people, but it is to me. I'm left-handed, so my left-handed scissors are really, really important. They've got the red handle, as you can see here, and usually the red handle scissors are for left-handed people. Right-handed people have the orange handled scissors. Now, these are really important because I can't actually use right-handed scissors for cutting out my fabrics. These are, like I said, specially designed for left-handed people. So they've got the groove on this side or the indent on this side. So you can slip your fingers in really easily and cut. And the blades are obviously meant for left-handed people. If I use right-handed scissors, I actually have to flick the scissors the wrong way around and use them that way around. And it's really, really difficult to cut out fabric. So for left-handed people like myself, these should be in your gadget box or your sewing box, because they really do make sewing a lot easier. So that is my favourite gadget, number 1. My second favourite sewing gadget is a really nice box of pins. Now, I am a scissors and pins girl. I'm not particularly good with a rotary cutter and weights, and that might be the fact, again, that I'm left-handed. So I'm a bit kind of undecided which hand to use the rotary cutter in. So I find scissors my best option, but I also need good pins with that. Now, I like pins which are, like this. You might not be able to see them, but they are the fine, small metal pins, which are like this. They're quite small. Can you see? There we go. And they've got a small head. Now, I find these to be good pins because I can pin a pattern or pin my fabric together using these pins, and they don't even mark in the fabric. I know that some sewers like to use pins like these, which, again, if I stand up near the camera, they're a lot longer and they have kind of a glass bead or maybe a little heart or flower on the end. Now, I'm not keen on these kind of pins because I think they are too blunt and too coarse, if you like, for fine fabrics. So I only use these pins to pin my knitting pieces together when I'm sewing my knitting up, and I never get them anywhere near my sewing fabrics. So, number 2 gadget is a really nice box of sharp pins. Oh, just to say, by the way, that I do have different pins for different fabrics. So these are just normal standard pins for woven fabrics. I do have ballpoint pins for knits. I've only recently discovered my 3rd favourite gadget, and that is a seam guide. Again, I'm going to stand up and show you against my cardigan because it's quite difficult to see when I'm holding it up in the air. And as you can see, it's a plastic gadget that's got indentations cut out of it and areas that are different lengths and depths. Now, on this seam guide, you can see that the length and the depths of each of these cutouts are denoted in centimetres. And this is a really useful tool for marking seams or marking hems, and instead of using a tape measure. And it's really easy just to decide which one you want to use. This is the 2 centimetre one, which is probably the one I use the most. This is the hem depth I use the most. And you can just go along your hem and pin or mark according to which measurement you're using. And it's sometimes a little bit easier than using a tape measure because you can just hold it in your hand and just mark, whereas a tape measure, I'm always putting it down, then having to remember which depth I'm using for whatever seam or hem I'm marking. Favourite sewing gadget, number 3. Favourite sewing gadget number 4 is a tailor's ham. Now I've mentioned this quite a few times, and again it's quite a new addition to my sewing equipment. I've had it for a couple of years really, but as you can see it's shaped. It has kind of a woolen fabric side on one side and a cotton side on the other, and it's filled with sawdust. Mine's losing a bit of its shape now because I've used it so much. But what this gadget is for pressing around round areas. So you might use it to press a dart, for example. So you can actually press, because darts are used to take in garments in one area and taper them down. I'm sure you all know what a dart is. But you can press your dart onto the surface of the tailor's ham and you get a nice rounded dart. They're also good for putting into shoulder areas or round neck areas or sleeves, for example, at the top, or to press trousers, especially around the crotch seam. So it's a really good gadget for pressing around curves. My final favourite gadget is a little bit of an odd one. It's an old knitting needle. Now again, I'm going to get up and show you this. It's got a nice turned edge on it. That's not the bit obviously that's important in sewing. It's this edge. Now this is I think it's a wooden needle. I'm not sure exactly what kind of wood it is, but it's a little bit flexible, and it's been sadly taken out of commission in my knitting equipment, because when you knit obviously with wooden needles the tips do seem to get a little bit worn. However, this went straight into my sewing box because I use the tip for pushing out points of things. So for example, when I'm making hair ties for my business, my hair ties are sewn into a point at each end, and this little knitting needle here, this little gadget, is quite useful for pushing the point out and making a nice pointy point. Or for mitered corners where I've got a nice 90-degree angle, I can push out the point of the corner and it gives a nice sharp finish. A good way of using this as well is to, when you're pushing the point out, because it's wooden, I have a little bowl of water and I immerse the tip of the needle into the water and then use it on my fabric, and the action of the wood and the water somehow pushes the point out a lot better. You can obviously get real gadgets that are corner pushers or whatever they might want to call them, but that is probably my favourite gadget of all time. I also use it, by the way, for when I've changed the bobbin in my sewing machine and I've put my thread at the top and I've turned the wheel so that the thread is caught from under the bobbin. There's a little loop, isn't there? And I put that end in the loop and pull it through. So it does actually have 2 uses. Short video from me today. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what your favourite sewing gadget is. Until next time, happy sewing. Bye bye.